Hi guys, welcome back to the Warwick Base Camp here at 2016. We're here today with Scott REEDER. Thanks so much for coming over, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
We've just been talking about your approach to playing bass and how it's evolved through the years. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
I started playing drums when I was 5 years old.
Right.
I wanted to be Ringo Starr. I was so into the Beatles. And not only the drumming, but the harmonies and the melodies inspired me. I played trombone throughout school. There were already too many drummers. So I learned the trombone, and I was playing in a punk band in high school, and the bass player wasn't allowed to go out of town and play gigs, so he ended up quitting, and we couldn't find another bass player. So I switched from drums over to bass, got to kind of combine the percussiveness of the drums with the harmony and melody of the trombone, and it was like the perfect fit. That was it. I haven't turned back. I haven't played trombone in 30 years.
So it's a case of right place, right time in certain aspects.
Yeah, just destiny.
Right. And what happened next?
I went to UCLA for a couple of years, took some music classes, but there was nothing that I wanted to do that topped playing in bands, so I just kept at it, and I've just kind of gone wherever luck or the wind has carried me, and been lucky so far.
And how important has it been to be in the bands you've been in? I mean, specifically Kyuss and guys like that, that whole period.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that led up to playing in Kyuss, but that was really what changed my life, was playing on Sky Valley,
right.
the first record that I got to play on.
Yeah.
I mean, it still affects everything I do. Everybody that books my studio is because of that record. Dave Grohl calling to have me play on a track is because of that record. You know, it's crazy to me that 25 years later, anybody still remembers it. It blows my mind. I'm so lucky to have fallen in with those guys.
And what do you remember about the session and that?
Which one?
And doing the album.
Of Sky Valley?
Yeah.
Not much. It was at Sound City.
Yeah.
I remember the first night that we finally had the sounds dialed in. I mean, the producer, Chris, was so persnickety about the tones, in a good way.
Yeah.
But we were trying to match the guitar tones to the record before that. And I mean, it was a new bass player, so it was going to sound different. But when we got everything dialed in, we had some friends come over, and we put candles all around the room and burned some incense, and we blasted through most of the record that one night. The next morning, Chris was at the board shaking his head. "Oh, what's the matter?" He said, "Nah, the guitar and bass tones aren't quite meshing." And there were a few songs that we ended up just panning the guitar to one side and the bass to the other side and just going for it, like the Ramones. To me, the performance was way more important than the tones, and the performances that night were we were in the zone and dying to get things out, and we kept a lot of the stuff that night.
And how much of that is carried over to how you run your studio now, like 25 years later?
When I started engineering, I was working at a jingle house, and everything had to be really quick. Okay. Money was burning. You had talent hired, getting union scales, and you had clients sitting behind you on the couch, putting in their 2 cents. Everything had to happen so fast. So, yeah, if I'm in a studio and it takes 3 days to dial in tones, I'm jumping out of my skin. So things are pretty fast in my studio. A band will come in, we'll get basic levels, and within 2 hours or so, we're tracking. Yeah, I like to move things along and get the raw performances. Everything is cut live. My studio has an ISO booth for the bass player, an ISO booth for the guitar player, an ISO booth for the singer, and the drums in the middle. Everybody's got a window, so all the instruments are isolated, but you can get the whole band live. Right. And that's like the most important thing, is getting that live feel. Pretty much every band that I've been in has recorded that way, getting that raw energy where there are some mistakes, but those little grinds are what make it exciting. The little mistakes, and that's what makes a recording great to me.
And you mentioned previously about finding the tone and finding the right sound. How has that sort of developed into these basses that you're playing now here at Warwick?
The control on these is incredible. Like the other night, my band played a festival in Las Vegas, and there was no sound check. Usually I can tell the engineer that the way I play, the strings are going to be clacking off the pickup, so the DI sound got to roll off the high end. There was no time to do that. So I was like, okay, I'll just roll off the high end on my bass, and it sounded fine. And I've never been able to do that with other instruments that I've had. The tone on these is unreal, the playability is unreal, the necks are just perfect. I want to take the factory tour again. I can watch that machine that cuts the radius of the neck and puts in the frets and laser beams coming out and little puffs of air to blow the sawdust away. It's fascinating, and they're perfect. I've never played a more perfect instrument than what they're making here.
And you're about to pick up a new one, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. I'm so excited about becoming acquainted with this bass. It's an 8-string.
Right.
I know it's going to be very strange. It's going to have it's like a 4-string bass, but it has the smaller octave strings on the bottom. That was a big issue. I talked to a lot of people about whether or not it should be on the top or the bottom, but the way I play, I'm mostly tapping the strings.
Right.
And I think it's going to work out. If it's how I imagine it, it's going to be a really good thing, but it's going to take a lot of getting used to.
And tell us again about the finish, the chrome finish.
The chrome is going to be amazing. I mean, I love the natural wood.
Yeah.
I live in a very dry climate, so I worry about the wood drying out if I'm not waxing it like every day. And I'm hoping that the chrome is more of a sealant.
So it's going to be completely chrome.
Yeah, if you try to take a flash picture of it, it's just going to go.
Right.
You're not going to see anything.
Okay. And how important is it to be able to have a company that can kind of work with you on an instrument, especially being a left-handed player who plays the way you do?
Yeah, I play lefty but strung righty.
Yeah.
So I can't walk into Guitar Center. I can't even walk into this room and pick up any of these instruments because they're backwards. The right-handed basses are backwards. I mean, I can flip it over and play it, but my arm's going to be turning the knobs and the strap's going to be hooked up down here and I can't reach the top frets. And then I can't pick up a lefty bass because it's strung backwards. So to have Warwick making these custom instruments for me is a godsend. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world being part of this company.
Well, Scott, thanks again for joining us, man. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. All right.